Hello and good morning, everybody. It's not quite afternoon yet. I am very excited that I'm here today with Fleur Emery. So I will let Fleur introduce herself, but just as a start, I really wanted to talk about the reason that I got to know Fleur. So right at the beginning of lockdown, I was at a bit of a crossroads, wasn't quite sure what to do. And Fleur popped up on my Instagram one day saying, if I started a community, who would like to join? And so obviously I was like, me. And, it's one of the best things I've ever done. I just remember having a session with Fleur and I was like, I'm just not sure which direction should go and what should I do? And I just remember you going, Lucy, niche. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And
That's
now
terrible advice, isn't it?
it was brilliant advice
I'm
because
not
I
sure.
did it.
Maybe on the day. Let's caveat that's not the only tool in my toolbox. I don't believe in niching as a blanket rule. But you needed to sort of start, didn't you? You needed to just start and focus in on something and test. You needed to start really a cycle of experimentation and investigate one thing fully so you could decide, right, it's not that, it's this, sort of move out, didn't you? Because you were sort of going, is it this, is it that? Do you want the main course? Do you want the starter? I can do the whole thing. I can come to your house and cook it. Isn't it? It's focusing in.
Yeah, and that was totally it. I think I was trying to be all things to all people, but therefore not being anything. And actually what I did then was talk about being a part-time CMO and being very clear on what stage startups needed that, what I could do for them, and how they could get in contact and how they could start working with me. And I think that's really what worked.
It really worked. You got really clear after real work. It's been lovely to watch your success, which of course you leading out crediting me with that coaching session. I'm going to take credit for all of your success now.
I think that's absolutely fine. I think I'm on it. So, but this is, that was my slow period of growth at the beginning of lockdown where I started really well and then went down and then, and that was the bump in the road. And we all have these bumps where, growth isn't happening quite how we want it to. And we start to miss the targets that we're setting. And, how do we get out of that blip? We're all going to have it. No growth is ever just a beautiful straight line. We're always going to have the curves, the ups and the downs, the roller coaster of startup life. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today. So without further ado, Fleur, please tell us in a capsule, who you are and what has brought you to being, the startup consultant, multiple founder, and
who you are. What's your name? Where do you come from?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so it's good for me to just quickly caveat my career because I'm known for giving quite direct opinions and sometimes it ruffles a few feathers. So for 20 years, I've bing starting businesses of my own and helping other people to start their businesses, mainly women. My zone of genius is actioning ideas, testing ideas, product market fit, setting up manufacturing. Most of my experience, direct experience, is in FMCG. But now recently, I've got an online business. So I've kind of moved on to, look, we're on LinkedIn now. I wasn't even on any of this stuff before. So I'm a kind of a very late adopter, but enthusiast for digital selling now. So that's a kind of a new thing for me. I work one-on-one with startups, again, usually women, usually in the first 18 months of their business, up until, hopefully they're profitable or almost profitable. And I also have this group, Real Work, an online co-working space for women, which is like a peer support platform, not just for startup founders, but also for freelancers, small business owners. And the aim of it really is for women to come together and take action, share experience, and the main idea is for women to create businesses that work for them. We're all different, and there's infinity variations of businesses that you can create, and you need to create the right one for you, which is why, Lucy, which is why the whole fixation on growth is just, really, really gets up my nose.
I think that's right. And, we always talk about zebras, not unicorns. Let's grow properly and sustainably to the point at which we're not trying to get that. There's no quick wins. It's all about how do you build.
We're just trained and groomed to pursue growth, that success is a race to sort of grow. If you've got a scale up business, to exit, and anything other than a stellar exit and a load of awards from expensive ceremonies with rubber chicken that you can talk about on LinkedIn, that's what it's all about. Even if your kids are in wraparound care and are scratching their eyeballs out at home, that's success, is the big exit, the big figure that you can quote, and we're racing for that. And I say that as someone who really had that. It took me a long time to sort of let go of that growth model as my measurement of success as well. And the 2 food startups that I created myself were beautiful projects, really lovely projects that created masses of value, and it was just rich in collaborations and learning. And they were lovely projects, but they didn't exit. I didn't manage the businesses well enough, in year 3 and beyond, and they didn't exit. And I perceived those as failures. I perceived those businesses failures. And really, the reason I want to get into this subject is because I just want to push back on what our measures of success are, and our sort of focus on growth. In fact, Real Work, my online membership, which you talked about, as you mentioned, I started it in lockdown, and that was because I was at home, a solo parent, responsible for a 4-year-old, and all the kind of speaking gigs and the stuff like that was my bread and butter at the time, was all cancelled when Boris Johnson shook his fists at us and told us to stay home. I didn't have any work, I didn't have any income. And I thought, it's a bit spicy. What are we going to do? And that's when I literally went on social media and I said, hi, everyone. I'm going to start a membership. Don't know what it's called. It'll be amazing. Sign here. And happily, everyone came aboard for the ride. But that business grew and grew and grew in year 1. In year 2, I just thought, marvelous. I know an opportunity when I see one. Got a bit of family, friends investment, went down the back of the sofa, put some of my money in, hired a team, got serious on the marketing, expensive branding, the whole thing, reinvested for growth, having experienced what I thought was product market fit. I wasn't paying attention to the fact that it was in quite a unique set of circumstances, and the growth didn't happen and it plateaued. And then the whole market shrunk. All online memberships shrunk when lockdown was released. And that slump was kind of, it was a gift. It was a gift, actually, because the business I was building in the pursuit of growth was a business I didn't want to be in. And actually, I was building myself out of the business. I was becoming a manager. And as the first 2 businesses, which I just talked about, illustrate, my talent is not in growing a team and scaling up. My talent is the early stage. What do customers want? What do they, how are they used to buying things? What's the story behind this? Why do you care about this? Why will your customers care about this? Where should you sell it? All that early stuff. That's what I get really excited about. And then I was designing a job for myself, which I didn't want. And I was actually becoming a bit fed up. And the economics of it forced me to make a call and then just give the business a big haircut and reduce the offer, stop sending the masses of marketing and swishy emails and all that stuff, just cut it right back. And the fascinating thing is, so I intentionally stopped the growth, stopped marketing it, stopped telling her about it. And I'm happier. The business works better. It's more profitable. And critically, my units of measurement in terms of value creation Why am I there in the first place? To support women to work and earn money on their own terms. I've got a way of measuring that. I've got I have 3 pieces of data which I track after 3 months, which is a member's perception of her own growth in the program. That's all. It's all doing better. It's creating more value. The machine is doing more of what it's designed to do by stopping growth in the traditional way.
And how did you work out what the right thing to do was? So obviously you thought that, that you were going on the right track, time to invest and to scale. How did you then know what the right direction was to take when you realized that that wasn't
working? Yeah. So the first thing is, it's you have to pay attention. You have to. It's difficult because we're all sort of on a scale of how entrepreneurial we are, right? I'm sort of very entrepreneurial naturally, and I get bored quickly. I'm very changeable. I'm very nimble, and that sort of those character traits also mean that I have a lot of self-belief / little bit in a fantasy world sometimes. So so I struggle to sort of keep grounded in the realities of what's happening. I've had to really, that's been kind of my journey over 2 decades, to really sort of come into, to balance this sort of maverick, creative side to me with this sort of being in the real world. And you have to keep your feet in the real world. You have to at least revisit the real world regularly so that you can get a clear idea of what's really happening in the business. And what that means for many of us, unless you're prone unless you're an accountant by trade, you love bookkeeping, it means that you have to have like 2 or 3 numbers that you regularly keep track of, so that you don't want to be one of these people. And I've met masses of these founders who say, oh, we have a great accountant, we've just outsourced all the finances, and they don't know how much money they've been paid, how much directors' loans they've put in, how much turnover until the end of the year. That's disastrous. So you need to pay attention and keep track of what's going on the ground. You need to have roughly in your mind a line in the sand. So I'm very hopeful, and I kept saying, okay, we're going to try this, and I think this is going to bring in some new people, right? We're going to have outside speakers, or we're going to do this, or we're going to offer that, and hopefully that that should give us an uplift. And we try it, and we put energy and investment in it, and it didn't work. And so I said, okay, and so how many rounds of experimentation we could do? I had an idea of that. And I had an idea of how much money in that year of my own I wanted to put in before I'd say, okay, that's enough. And that was my measurement in terms of knowing, what my expenditure is in my life. Again, everyone's circumstances are different. That number could be £10 or 10 million pounds, depending on who you are. So I had all of those come under the caveat of what's right for you and what's sort of appropriate for the size of the business. Again, it's one of those things, talk to other women founders, ask me, sense check that against someone. I think we're going to do this. I think we're going to spend £5,000 on building this. This is what we've spent before. This is what's happened, talking things through the nitty gritty. So I had an idea of where that line in the sand was. Like, if we haven't had an uplift by that time, then we're going to take a haircut. And when it comes to that, it was a kind of a sense of letting go. The interesting thing that had happened during that whole period, when I started Real Work, it was the first time I'd been visible online in a big way. As I say, most of my work experience is offline. It's in industry. And my 2 food startups were sort of, back in the days of sort of printing off flyers and all that kind of stuff, standing in Waitrose and giving out samples. And so when I suddenly had a public profile and a leadership position with other women, like, I took that very seriously, and I actually started doing one-on-one work in self-development, and really looking at particularly the issue of diversity and inclusion and my privilege and all that kind of stuff. So I went deep on that at the time. And the fascinating thing is that work about leadership led me to realize, well, understand about myself, that I was still chasing an exit, that my appetite for growth was quite overdeveloped. So I thought, great, I'm going to scale real work. I'm going to have an app. I was telling the world this. I was getting written about in magazines. I'm going to scale it. We're going to have an app. This is going to be for all women. And actually, when I did the work one-on-one and was confronted with myself, I just realized that was just all about my ego. And it was all about my loss of faith, really, with the so-called my perceived failures of the first two businesses to exit. And also, of course, over my whole career, I've coached loads of other founders who are screaming towards exits. Pippa Murray, Jess Harris from Little Bandit, Snackzilla, all these women who I've coached who have these businesses with teams of 20. And, I was like, well, hang on a minute. I'm the teacher. I need to do that, don't I? For my own sort of credibility. So I had this sort of big ego thing. And once I stuck a pin in that, and I just thought, well, what it would be like, what it would be like to say that part doesn't matter. If we took that off the table and everything just went like a souffle, just went, and relax. And it just completely changed my view of what was actually appetite in the business at that time. And what I really care about and enjoy is conversations like this with other women. That time with you and me, and we just took your business. We just thought, well, what does that do? Why did you do it like that? I mean, did it work? Do you enjoy that? Just looking at all those things and finding a way to generate value, do something that is meaningful, get paid for it, support the life that you want. And when I took the ego and the drive and the MBA diagrams out of the equation and stopped focusing on aggressive growth, I became less like, the government, the GDP, all that, it's all the stuff from the news and from the, growth and global. It's all just chatter. We can just put that to one side. Just think, how do I want my days to be? What gifts do I have to share? Mine are like storytelling, encouraging. I'm known for being able to sort of focus in on really what the problem is and sort of unpick it. That's kind of what I do. And all the other stuff, all the marketing and the talk, it's all just a kind of performance to fit in with a system. And I just let all the balls drop to the floor. And then everything just worked in a much more natural way.
And still being able to do what your proposition was, which was about supporting women.
Yeah, I generate more value. I support way more women. I work way less. I just work school hours because I'm here on my own with a 7-year-old. I work between 9 and 3. I make plenty of money to support us in the life, that I've built by the sea. And I love all of my work. So that's growth, isn't it? Isn't that growth?
It's amazing growth.
Yeah, right.
Tell me about, I'd love to hear more about the porridge in a pot, because this was, and how you got that started, and how you did get the growth, and what were the key growth channels, because I think it's such an intriguing story.
I didn't think I'd work. I don't think I'd heard of the word growth channel or product market fit, engine of growth, and all of those. I mean, we knew nothing. It was such a long time ago. It was such an innocent time. Happily, there aren't even many photographs of that time, because people didn't have cameras on their phone much, and they'd have like a camera. They'd take a photograph and it would be like just so low res that it's unusable. So me and my sister, basically, I was kind of unemployable. I didn't really know much about myself, except that I'd go into jobs. I'd manage to talk myself into a job and I'd lose the job quite quickly. And I was very confused about why. you know, this entrepreneurial ideal. I thought that people wanted me to solve the whole problems of the entire corporation, and yeah, they didn't want me to do that. They wanted me to do the photocopying, and I'd just be, yeah, it wasn't good. So I'd had a bit of time doing not much, and then me and my sister started making a porridge mix with oats and milk in a cardboard cup. And then we started making stickers for them. We started making them for our friends, putting messages on them, started selling them in my sister's friend's surf shop. And then I just got ahead of myself, or as a lovely expression from where I live in Portsmouth, which is I got a bit previous, bit ahead of myself. And I thought, right, I'm going to sell these in Waitrose, and had no idea how, and just started from there. And it was just a lovely project. It was really right. You know, we were kind of independent business pioneers. we didn't even know. There was no support. I mean, really, it was, we needed to find a factory to manufacture our product. And we just got the yellow pages, a physical copy, and looked up for factory. Hello, is that a factory? Can you make up? It was literally like that. It was wonderful, terrifying. The accessibility to finance was, you know, it's bad now, particularly for women. It was just non-existent then. And you had to, I mean, it was non-existent. And the whole thing kind of fell to its knees because we ended up with a horrendous terms with Lloyd's Bank, let's say it, and we had to give my sister's house as a guarantee on a huge loan. You know, it was just the finances of it, because we just didn't know what we were doing in that side. We sold tons of porridge, which was really fun, in Waitrose and Harvey Nichols, and Soho House had it in their mini bars, and Ray Fiennes sat in bed and ate one. That was a big thrill. Harvey Nichols made a whole window display of it, and they had it on aeroplanes, on British Airways. It was brilliant. And all the little porridge pots you have now, you know, we invented that. Although, having said that, ours were cardboard and now they're all plastic. So we're probably responsible for starting a trend which has generated 10 billion pieces of plastic. But, you know, ups and downs.
And so how did you get Harvey Nicks to do a window display of porridge?
That's just hilarious, Lucy, because should I tell you how it happened?
Yes.
The branding, the visual identity, I designed literally on a napkin with a biro. My sister scanned it into a computer using a knocked off copy of Adobe something or other that she'd got off eBay. And we got some labels printed, got the pots printed eventually. It was a bit more professional than that. Sold it into Harvey Nichols. Harvey Nichols is a brilliant customer for independent food brands. They like innovation. They give good payment terms. You know, they were great to us. We sold them, you know, like a pallet of porridge. The stuff arrives and someone spotted it and they just thought they liked it, and they created a sculpture in the window. We didn't even have a photograph of it, just of porridge pots. And I didn't know anything until I got a text message. Again, this was before the days of photo images. I got a text message saying, "Congratulations on the Harvey Nichols window." I didn't know what they were talking about. I lived in Borough. I think I got a black taxi. It was a winter. It was dark. Got a taxi across to Knightsbridge, stood outside that posh hotel on the other side, that funny place that has the supercars. Stood outside there in the dark, in the rain, on a winter night, looking at the window, lit up, just full of porridge. And I just thought, you know, have I taken LSD? This is brilliant, brilliant. And when I say innocent times, you know, that could happen then, and it can't. So we had the penalties of the fact that I was surrounded by people literally telling me, "You can't do this. You can't do it. You know, you cannot do this. Do not proceed. You know, you can't. Who are you? Why?" You know, I had a lot of that. There was no reasonable provision at all for financing a small business. When the businesses started failing, there was all kind of sort of people appeared who, yeah, it was hard, but there weren't many others. So, you know, the newspapers would phone up and say, "Oh, it's the Guardian. Can we come round to your house and write a half a page piece on you?" marvelous. So it's kind of the rough with the smooth. You know, we had these incredible moments of when it just felt like all the traffic lights were turning green when we drove up to them. But also there were some really big hurdles to overcome that young founders now, you know, have. You know, we didn't have any of these support networks. There wasn't anything like that. We'd write letters. We'd write like, "Dear Innocent Smoothies, please would you tell us how to, you know, do sell-by dates? Love from." It was like that. It was just ridiculous.
And how did you find people in the industry that could support you and give you that advice and mentor you?
No. Which is actually, you know, the funny thing is that drives my whole career now, because it's like being a time traveler. Like when I give other people advice, I'm not one of the, I don't tend to call myself a coach, right? Because, you know, there's a lot of people who work hard to do coaching qualifications and there's frameworks. I don't do any of that. I just listen to you and I kind of tell you what I think. And yeah, well, I did that and this is what happened. Like I just talk from kind of lived experience and from thousands and thousands of hours of conversations like this, you know, listening and sharing. But no is the answer there. And I have in general, I have a poor opinion of institutionalized mentoring schemes, anything that comes from the government. And I've seen them on the inside. I've both been the ill-served recipient of that mentorship. And I've also been hired to deliver that mentoring. And I've seen on the inside how inappropriate the provision is, particularly for women, and how a lot of bad advice is being sold on to people. Inappropriate advice is being sold on to people from people who should know better, are getting paid a lot and probably don't need the money. There you go.
I think one of a very shared problem that I think a lot of founders have is that they get given an awful lot of advice, but often it's from a lot of directions as well, and that's quite scary when you're starting your own business and everybody's got a different point of view. And how do you have your sort of inner compass to know which is
that's the whole thing, because many of the people, the problem, right? So say, for example, you want to start organic burger business, right? And you want to sell it into food service. What you need is someone who knows their way around food service, who understands how the food service, you know, if a branded thing, someone who started a brand. And what you really need is someone entrepreneurial who's done that and made a success of it. But the thing is, they're an entrepreneur, so they'll be busy working on their own thing. So the person who steps in to give you the advice is someone who's not so entrepreneurial and but wants to give you the advice. It's like a simple thing. Find someone who's done what you want to do and ask them how they did it. That's how you get good advice. That's kind of all you need to know. But there's a lot of people, because my aim is that women fall behind their male counterparts in business. However, businesses founded by women create more social value and more profit. So what does that tell us? It tells us that women left to their own devices start better businesses. But the problem is the messages from outside, which are often about, you know, structures, pathways, you know, how many times I was asked if I've got an MBA or not. No, I didn't get in. I can't do a course like that. I'll just, you know, all of those things. We're conditioned by advice to doubt our own intuition, which of course is, you know, this is our feminine inheritance that comes, you know, as a thread that comes through, you know, all of our lives. You know, be quiet, don't take up as much room, you know, do as you're told, you know, someone else knows better than you. You know, we all have those, we all, you know, trying to shed those messages, and we desperately need to shed it in the world of work as well, because when women are left to their own devices, they can save the world. Women-led businesses creating more social value, like let them get on with it. Stop giving them advice.
100%. And so if somebody else was going to be starting up their version of Porridge in a Pot, the next challenger brand now, what advice would you give them on how to get going and how to make sure they're going on a steady path and understanding what they want out of it?
The first thing is, the world has changed so much since I started a product business. So I'd go super radical and I'd even say, do we need more stuff in the world? Have we got enough stuff? Going back to your thing about growth and how we measure growth, like as a nation and as a society, like about, GDP and our units of measurement, they're about consumption. They're about how, GDP is based on how much stuff as a nation, how goods or services that we produce and consume, not that we reuse. There's nothing about reusing in it. The stuff that we reuse or pass on or resell doesn't go in the calculation. And I would look at, do we need to make more stuff? And why do you care? What are you really trying to achieve? Like what do you really care about? And once you've done all of that sort of high level stuff about why you're even here, then I would say find someone who's done it and ask them how they did it. Simple as that. And if that, you can say, well, they're not available, I can't get a hold of them. Yeah, you can. Suck up to them. Find them and suck up to them. Get to know them, be around, get access to them, and ask them how they did it.
Amazing. I thank you so much, Fleur. This has been brilliant. I could talk to you all day, but very aware that we're already over our 30 minutes.
It doesn't actually feel like we're on live on LinkedIn because we're in this strange piece of software. And so I've literally been talking to you like it's just you and me, and anyone could be watching this.
That's good. I'm pretty sure that's the way it's supposed to be. Okay. But thank you so much. And where should people find you?
My website is doreal.work. I'm sure there's a button on LinkedIn where they can. I'm quite up to date on LinkedIn, so they can contact me that way. Unless they're trying to sell me something, that's annoying, isn't it? That thing when they say, "Hi, we've got so much in common. Let's connect." You go, okay. Yeah. So if you want to actually talk to me, I'm a real person. I'm very, very here for that. And small businesses, startups, all of that kind of stuff. I'm active on Instagram if people want to see more about who I am, particularly my crafting and my home renovations. And also, if people are just interested in my view of things, then I've got a news thing that I write emails, like a group email, and that's quite lively, so a bit behind the scenes. There's not really business tips on there. It's not like 5 ways to do this. It's more about my opinion on business things, lessons that we can all learn. So for example, I just went quite deep on the Theranos story and what we can learn from that, and how I feel like we're kind of concentrating on the wrong aspect of the story, that kind of stuff. So yeah, newsletter, website, or just drop me an email.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Was that the worst, as a marketer, Lucy, was that the worst call to action you've ever heard? I mean, that was like, surely not. I mean, that just lost everyone, didn't I, in sentence 4? You have to have a snappy call to action. One thing, sign up here, do my quiz. That was terrible, wasn't it?
I think it's quite intriguing. I now want to, I know what you wrote about Theranos, but I'm sure lots of other people will want to know too. So we'll put that link actually into our newsletter on Thursday so that people can come and have a look at the juicy gossip behind behind the newsletter. But thank you so much, and have a very Merry Christmas.
You too.